Welcome to Damn Good Movie Memories with your host, Brian Davis. This podcast is the cure for your long commute and super boring workday.
You know what that is? It's the sound of a marriage breaking up. It's also the name of a new picture. It's easy to say. Try it. Just put your lower lip up against your upper teeth and breathe out quick like this. See? And even if you can't say it, see it.
And slowly, her eyes never leaving my face, she began, one button at a time, to undo the front of her sweater.
If I had a gun, I'd shoot you right between the eyes. You look pretty good, kid, for an unmarried American female.
Look beautiful. There's this friend of mine, a wonderful guy named Bob Tracy.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
He's a great guy. I met him laughs, and he's dying to meet you.
I know a wonderful place where it's very dark, very quiet, where we can talk.
Where is this place?
My apartment.
I think maybe I ought to pull this curtain. There seems to be somebody staring at you from across the court.
Oh, no, don't do that. My girlfriend and I, we never pull the curtain. We just have a ball with him. You know, that boy must be a nervous wreck.
Can't we talk this over calmly?
My best friend. If he's done anything to her, I'll kill him. That's all. I'll kill him in cold blood.
Of course, she's not my wife. She's my ex-wife. Wonder if the unwritten law applies for ex-wives, too.
Hey there, it's Brian Davis, and for this week's episode, we're going to cover the movie, get ready for it, Phffft, from 1954. You heard me right. It's a noise. If you want to know how it's spelled, it's Phffft. You know. The studio was Columbia Pictures. The release date was November 10th, 1954. The running time, 88 minutes, and it was in black and white. Leonard Maltin from his classic movie guide gives that 3 out of 4 stars. He writes, Saucy Sex Romp by George Axelrod, with Judy Holliday and Jack Lemmon discovering that they were better off before they divorced. Now, this is a movie I discovered a few years ago and bought on DVD as a blind purchase, partly because of the high rating from Leonard Maltin. He's pretty spot on for my classic film taste, and because I really enjoyed It Should Happen to You, which came out the same year and featured the same stars. All right, let's get into the main cast. You have Judy Holliday playing Nina. Sadly, we never got the full arsenal of Holliday's talents because she died of breast cancer at the age of 43 in 1965. However, in the 1950s, Holliday was terrific in many comedies and won an Academy Award for Best Actress in 1950 for the film Born Yesterday with William Holden. Her other notable movies were Adam's Rib with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for that. The Marrying Kind, It Should Happen to You, also with Jack Lemmon, The Solid Gold Cadillac, Full of Life, and Bells Are Ringin'. Jack Lemmon plays Robert. Now, I've covered a number of Lemmon's films like The Out-of-Towners, Some Like It Hot, It Happened to Jane, and more recently, Glengarry Glen Ross. In 1954, Lemmon was still very early on in his career, with and It Should Happen to You being his first 2 fully credited films. Other key supporting stars were Jack Carson. We covered him on Arsenic and Old Lace, and Mildred Pierce on prior episodes. A very young Kim Novak. She was only in her second film. Of course, Novak would gain fame starring in the 1958 film Vertigo with James Stewart, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Okay, let's get into the making of the film. So the screenplay is based on the Broadway play Chronicle of a Happy Divorce, also written by George Axelrod. This was a follow-up for Axelrod after his successful play, The 7-Year Itch. We covered that on this podcast. Axelrod would go on to write popular screenplays like Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter with Tony Randall and Jane Mansfield, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and The Manchurian Candidate. According to Axelrod, director Mark Robson was the wrong choice for the film because he felt he didn't know how to direct comedy. Axelrod said that Judy Holliday had a terrible time making the film because of Robson, along with the censorship at the time, which led to the butchering of the film, not to mention that Robson was originally a film editor prior to directing. Okay, let's get into the film. So it opens with the married couple, Robert, that's Jack Lemmon, and Nina, Judy Holliday. Robert is reading a trashy paperback book of the day called He Stooped to Kill.
Outside, the night was as black as a coal miner's. Outside, the night was as black as a coal miner's t-shirt. I turned slowly away from the window. Then, for the first time, she could see the automatic in my hand. Her eyes had that funny, mad look I'd come to know and fear. Her moist red lips were half parted. Then, slowly, her eyes never leaving my face, she began, one button at a time, to undo the front of her sweater.
Robert!
Huh? What? What is it?
Nothing. Robert, I want a divorce. No. Robert, I want... No. Robert, I want a divorce. Robert? I want a divorce.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
can't you do any better than that?
No, I think it's a very good idea. As a matter of fact, the same thought had occurred to me.
You're lying in your teeth. That's a typically childish and immature way of trying to save
The
face.
same thought had occurred to me.
You just want me to feel that you're the one that wants a divorce. Well, you're not.
Look,
I'm
Lisa,
the one that
listen.
wants a divorce.
I don't-
I'm the one. Just remember that. I'm the one.
I don't want to disillusion you, but for the past 6 months, I've been trying to get up enough courage to mention the subject myself.
Lie.
I thought about it constantly, night. As a matter of fact, I even mentioned it to Charlie Nelson.
You discussed this with Charlie
I did not
Nelson?
say I discussed it. I just said I mentioned it.
You discussed this with Charlie Nelson?
I only said Nina and I have not been getting along very well recently. I sometimes wonder if it would not be better if we were to get a divorce. To which Charlie replied...
What?
Charlie said, it's none of my business.
Oh,
but
that's the absolute truth.
It's none of my business, but as they say on Broadway, if the show is a flop, hold it.
Oh, that's so beautifully expressed. You can see what makes Charlie Nelson such a widely respected playwright.
Look, Charlie Nelson is not only an old friend and a valued client, but that was no lady who was sold to Hollywood for $75,000. That suggests a
That
certain
was
amount
no
of
lady
respect.
folded in Philadelphia. It wasn't worth 75 cents.
While we're having the little discussion, I'd just like you to know I blame the whole thing on your mother and her beloved Dr. Van Kessel.
Dr. Van Kessel was a brilliant analyst.
Brilliant! All he does is sit there and he $25 an hour listening to
$50 an hour.
neurotic women discussing their sex lives. He
You know-
probably doesn't even listen.
It's absolutely impossible to carry on a discussion with you on an adult level.
All right, fine. Good. What grounds?
I don't know. Any ground. Mental cruelty.
Mental cruelty. Of all of the ridiculous...
As a matter of fact, mental cruelty happens to fit this situation very
It's
nicely.
just a legal phrase. It has absolutely no meaning whatsoever.
As you just heard from the last clip, the marriage of Robert and Nina is pretty much finished. The next day in a Society column written by the famous columnist Walter Winchell, he writes about the pending divorce and uses the word Phffft, which he popularized when a celebrity couple broke up. Now, Robert's a tax lawyer and Nina is a writer for a popular radio soap opera. So Nina goes to Reno to get a quick divorce.
Well, now, Miss Tracy, ma'am, as your lawyer, I ask you, wasn't that a beautiful, beautiful divorce? A really lovely ceremony.
You mean it's really all over? It's all there is to it.
Well, ma'am, there's one thing more. You could take off your ring if you wanted to.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Can't seem to get it off. It's been on such a long time.
A little saddle soap, ma'am.
Oh, yes.
I swear, when he said divorce granted, well, there was tears in my eyes. I always cry at divorces.
I don't know. It was so quick. Are you absolutely sure it's legal?
Absolutely, ma'am.
I can hardly believe it. It's too good to be true.
Well, ma'am, when two people, down deep in their hearts, know they really hate each other, that's the only thing that matters.
Oh, we really hate each other, all right. There's no doubt about that.
Of course you do. And I know you two are going to be very, very happy.
Well, I am. I know that. In fact, I'm very, very happy right now.
Nina assumes Robert is miserable. However, Robert seems happy enough, and he moves in with his old Navy buddy Charlie, played by Jack Carson. And he figures he can do all sorts of things he can never do when married to Nina, like going to sports games and being a slob around the house. Charlie offers to set Robert up with new women, but Robert reminisces about the last time Charlie did this. Charlie set up Robert with Nina. We then go back in time for their first date when Robert offered to help Nina with her taxes.
Well, I guess you do quite a lot of entertaining at home for business reasons.
No, I don't.
Well, that's too bad, because that bottle of wine, for instance, is deductible.
Deductible?
Mm-hmm, of course deductible. Anything you spend for tax advice is an entirely legal tax deduction.
Oh.
Oh, how many rooms have you got here?
Well, this is it.
Oh. Where do you sleep?
Oh, that's very tricky. You just press a button, the bed sort of pops out of the wall.
What?
I'll show you. It sort of goes whoosh. Watch out.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's amazing. Gee, but that's American ingenuity. Looks very comfortable.
Yes, it is.
That's wonderful. It must work on a spring principle, I imagine.
Yes. Press a button, it comes out. Press another button, it goes right back. Watch out now. You don't want to get wounded in that other hand.
You know, I can't get over that. It's...
Well, I'm afraid you'll just have to. You ready for my canceled checks now?
Yes, I guess we better get down to business.
I think I have most of them. I'm afraid a few might be missing.
Missing?
I sent them to the laundry. I had them in one of my pockets. I picked them up in the mailbox on the way to the studio. Well, that was on a Tuesday. I mean, that's the day the laundry gets sent. What? Well, it could happen to anyone.
Well, we won't worry about it. We'll just do the best we can.
Oh.
Now, the idea is first to separate the checks into two stacks. You see, deductible and non-deductible.
I see.
Now, for instance, who or what is Otis J. Lemmon?
Who?
Who or what is Otis J. Lemmon? On March 4th, he wrote a check for $14.37 to one Otis J. Lemmon. Do you have any idea what that might be for?
No?
It's interesting, really. It's very interesting.
What?
Well, it's wonderful, really. I always say you can never really get to know a person well until you've been through a canceled checks.
You can't?
Beats psychiatry, palm reading, and, feeling the bumps on someone's head.
Phrenology?
Well, anyway, I can tell everything about a person from their canceled checks.
Can you tell about me?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything.
Well, is it all right?
Well, yes. You're frivolous, romantic, generous, somewhat over-impulsive. You're ambitious. You're a little scatterbrained. You also have a weakness for lacy underwear.
Well, that's uncanny.
You're also very pretty. You're very sweet. And you like to be kissed.
Oh, the checks. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. You can send those to the laundry, too.
maybe before this goes any further, I ought to look at your canceled checks.
You'll find I'm honest, thrifty, methodical, sober, upright, and really kind of dull.
I don't believe it.
Don't say it anymore. You remember, Charlie. It wasn't very long after I met Nina that she got a promotion. Her first chance to write a radio show. And it was just about the same time I was in line to get somewhat of a promotion myself.
Cynthia, I've come back to you. I couldn't stay away any longer.
Oh, Steve.
Life has been an empty shell.
For me too, Steve. I too have been living a lie.
I realize, Cynthia, you have $1 million in your own right. That you've a Rolls Royce, a personal maid, a townhouse, a country house, and 6 mink coats.
Oh, Steve.
Darling, I want to take you away from all this. Away from this tinsel, empty existence.
Oh, Steve.
Oh, perhaps we'll starve, but at least we shall be together.
We won't have to starve, Steve. That invention of yours, I showed it to Dad, and he's buying it for $1 million.
Darling.
Darling.
You must be crazy. I'll get fired. What happened?
What happened? My discharge is coming through next week.
Oh, Robert, that's wonderful.
Listen, you've heard of the firm Engelbach, Hurst, McCarran, and Lord, attorneys at law.
No.
Yeah, well, as of next week, it's going to be Engelbach, Hurst, McCarran, and Lord, attorneys at law, associate Robert Tracy.
Oh, Robert.
So starting next week, I'm going to be a starving lawyer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Come on, let's see. Nina?
Yes?
I've been thinking
Yes.
about your income tax situation.
Do we have to discuss that tonight?
Well, now, wait. Now, this is very important. You have a basic salaried income of $3,380 per annum. Is that correct?
That's right, if that's what $65 a week comes to. Yes, I don't see why we have to discuss it.
Well, now, I shall shortly be earning $5,200 myself. And to get to the point, if we were to file a joint return, it would seem to me that with the 2 exemptions, a joint return would not only be feasible, but actually economically very sound. Indeed. Tax-wise.
All right. I didn't think you could do that. File a joint return just like that. I thought you had to be married or something. Oh.
It was just like a movie, you know. They were married and they lived happily ever after. Until 8 years later, when they got a divorce.
It's the best thing that ever happened to you. Now, it's all over. It's all settled. Forget it. Oh, one thing, Bobby, just one thing. If 2 people are to live together harmoniously, a certain amount of intelligent planning is necessary. That's where Sam comes in.
What?
So, I forget. Come on, I want you to meet Sam.
What?
He's a very important member of this household. Here. This is Sam. When Freddie lived here, we worked out this system.
Well, Charlie, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, visitors, guests, callers, maybe even clients. For instance, supposing some night you're entertaining a visitor, a guest, a caller, or maybe even a client, and for some reason or other, it would be inconvenient to have me interrupt, and you want to inform me as discreetly as possible that the apartment is occupied. Huh? What you do is simply this. And later on, when the coast is clear.
Well, Charlie, I never see clients anywhere except at the office.
Well, my boy, a situation may arise. And if it does, remember. So?
So Sam is a statue, by the way. So we cut back to real time. We meet Nina's mother, Edith, played by Luella Gear. Well, she's a handful and addicted to seeing her analyst. Nina and her mom go to a restaurant, but end up seeing Robert and Charlie at a table across from them. They awkwardly acknowledge each other's presence, but then complain about each other to their table guests as they continue to get more drunk. Nina makes a scene by removing her ring in front of Robert before leaving the restaurant. Nina ends up going out on a date with a goofball she works with named Rick, played by Donald Curtis, who does this weird thing with his face that he believes is charming, but really it's ridiculous. Rick's main intention is to get Nina alone and back to his apartment. Nina agrees, but you can tell she's not into him. As it turns out, he's not even interested in Nina. He wants to discuss his role on a radio show and have her write a bigger part for him. Nina leaves immediately after hearing his pitch. Robert, on the other hand, is still reading his trashy books at Charlie's apartment. So Charlie decides to get him out and sets him up with a blonde knockout named Janice, played by Kim Novak.
Good evening. My name is Robert Tracy, and Charlie Nelson.
Oh, come on in. Come on. I'll be ready in just a minute. You know, it's the funniest thing. When Charlie called me up tonight, I was just about to open a can of spaghetti.
Well, I'm certainly glad you didn't do that.
Well, me too. I hate to cook. Turn around.
I beg your pardon?
Well, turn around. I have to finish dressing.
Oh, of course, certainly. I'm very sorry.
Speaking about spaghetti, you'd be surprised at how many fellas you go out on dates with who don't like to buy you any dinner. They'll buy you anything you want to drink, all right, but not to eat. What I think is, they just want to get you plastered.
I think maybe I ought to pull this curtain. There seems to be somebody staring at you from across the court.
Oh, no, don't do that. My girlfriend and I, we never pull the curtain. We just have a ball with him. You know, that boy must be a nervous wreck. We never let him get any sleep at all. Someday he's going to flip his lid or fall out the window or something. Don't you think that's a scream?
Well, I should think you'd call the police.
Oh, no. That would spoil everything. After all, he's been so patient, it only seems fair. Okay, you can turn around now.
You look lovely. Where would you care to have dinner?
Well, I know a real dreamy place. It's real cute. Come on, just stick with me. I get the biggest kick out of this place. All the boys here are from Yale. Hello. Hi, George.
Hello, Janice.
Hello. Hi, Janice. How have you been?
I suddenly feel kind of old among all these crew cuts.
You know something? I was to the spring prom at Yale last year. This Yale boy's roommate made a bet with him that he wouldn't dare ask me. But he did. He's at Harvard now.
That figures.
Hey, Janice, hit the pom-poms.
Come on, Janice.
Grab the pom-pom.
We want Janice.
It's your song, Janice.
Boola boola, boola boola, boola boola, boola boola. When we're through with those pom-poms, they will holler, boola boo, rah, rah. Oh yeah, Leela, yeah. Oh yeah, Leela, yeah. Oh yeah, Leela, yeah.
Good going, Janice.
Leela, yeah.
Nice work, girl.
Oh, you're swell, Janice. Sometimes I think I should have gone to college. You know, there's so much a person can get out of college.
That's certainly true.
You may not believe this, but they were going to give me a scholarship to this college. But I decided not to take it. I wanted to keep on with my dancing.
Well, that's very interesting. What college was that?
What?
Where they offered you a scholarship?
Well, some little jerkwater college back home. Here, put your hot one up against my cold one and make my cold one hot. That means give me a light. That's what Charlie Nelson always says when he wants to light a cigarette from somebody else's cigarette. I think it's real cute. I mean, you could really bust something laughing at Charlie.
In what subject did you almost get this scholarship? I don't know why this fascinates me so.
Music?
Music.
I won runner-up in the All-State Drum Majorette contest. Hey, let's dance.
You may notice that Novak's voice inflection sounded very similar to Marilyn Monroe at the time, which makes sense since Monroe was the blueprint for the type of character Novak was portraying in this film. So while she's gorgeous, Janice is a bit too young and enthusiastic compared to the older Robert. Instead of dancing, Janice suggests that they go back to Charlie's place, which she seems to know very well.
Maybe we should have another drink.
All right.
It's not very good without ice, I'm afraid.
Don't worry about it. Say, I've got a good idea. Maybe we could go out someplace else later on. Have you seen the show at the Copa?
Oh, no. I don't get to the Copa very much.
Well, at least they have ice at the Copa. You know, it seems awful funny that you're a friend of Charlie's. You know, you're not even a little bit like him. You're more the quiet, moody type. In some ways, you're very cute, though.
Well, I'm afraid this is awfully dull for you. I mean, I'm kind of depressed tonight. But sometimes I'm pretty much of a riot myself. But
Well, I'll bet you are.
yeah.
You know, you really ought to try and cheer up, though. Here, maybe this will help you. That didn't seem to do any good at all. Say, what's the matter with you anyway?
I don't know. I'm sorry, but the whole thing is a mistake, that's all. I told Charlie it was, but you know Charlie, I'm still upset and everything. I'm not very good company. You see, I don't even have any ice. Maybe the best thing I could do would be just to take you home.
Don't worry about it. I mean, it's quite all right. I can take a cab.
Oh, well, no, really. I mean, at least
Don't worry about it.
Well, I'll call you again sometime, maybe.
You do that.
I will.
That'll be fine.
All right, well, good night.
Good night. Say, how long were you married to that dame anyway?
About 8 years.
She was pretty special?
Well, she was different.
I've got a flash for you. That much different she couldn't be. Good night.
So Robert goes back to reading his trashy book for the night. Both Robert and Nina try different hobbies to keep their mind off their love lives. Nina tries learning French, while Robert tries painting. Charlie won't give up when it comes to finding a woman for Robert. He tells Robert that he needs a mustache. Initially, Robert is against it, but then grows a pencil-thin mustache and buys a new car, takes mambo dancing lessons, and goes out on a date with Charlie's secretary Marcia, played by Mary Anders. But of course, guess who is also at the club? This leads to a dance-off between Robert and Nina.
Cigarette?
No, thank you.
Alphonse.
A very nice table for you, Mr. Tracy.
Would you like to dance?
Love to.
Nice orchestra.
Would you like to dance?
Oh, no, Tommy, let's just sit for a while. I've danced more in the last few weeks than I have in the last 8 years. My ex-husband doesn't dance. I think I've changed my mind. Let's try it.
Mambo!
Mambo!
Mambo! Mambo!
So Robert and Nina end their dance cordially enough by shaking hands before parting ways. All right, there's about 30 minutes left and plenty of comedy remaining. As a viewer, you know that Robert and Nina are actually good for each other, but do they realize it? The final portion of the film answers all that and more. So while this might not seem like a must-watch, it's still very fun with two terrific actors in Judy Holliday and Jack Lemmon who had great chemistry together. Also, as I mentioned before, check out their other film from 1954 called It Should Happen to You, which is a better film in my opinion. All right, we have a special guest, Lindsay, who unlike the title, has more to say than just the sound. So let's talk to her now, and then I'll be back next week to talk about yet another random movie from my DVD collection. I should probably introduce you like a noise instead of an actual title, right?
I guess you could try. What would you say?
I don't know.
This is Olge. I'm trying to use my first initial last name. I'm just trying to... This is Olge.
No, actually, you do... so Pat, the old SNL bit, maybe it'd be like, "Ooh, welcome." Yeah, welcome.
I do a good Pat. Ooh.
Yeah. Welcome to... Ooh. Yeah. So anyway, the reason we're doing this is because this is either the most creative title or the worst title ever, because it's impossible to actually say because it's not an actual word, it's a sound.
Yeah, I had to try to look it up before we started recording here, and Wikipedia likes to remind us that it is spelled, and you just ran away. It's Phfft. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You do better than I. But yeah, it really is from... So Walter Winchell was a famous columnist. He was like a gossip columnist and in movies and everything. And he came up with this kind of term when a celebrity couple would break up. It was basically over. And
kaput.
Yeah. Except it had an actual sound to it.
So it was...
Yeah.
Interesting.
But... So they decided for whatever reason to make a movie out of that title, but...
Yeah, I mean...
Probably because it would get talked about by him in his column.
It's not an easy one, that's for sure.
No. All right, so watching it, I mean, it's basically a typical... It's not a typical rom-com. I mean, it's typical of the era, but I think that what makes it weird... You know, they were talking about divorce, which a lot of people weren't getting divorced back then. At least they weren't going to talk about it openly. And also dating at that age... Yeah, it was and also the couple of Jack Lemmon and Judy Holliday, both were very successful. Like she wasn't like she was a housewife or anything. They didn't even have kids, but they were married for 8 years. So they were kind of I would say, a very unique couple for 1954.
Actually, yeah. I mean, it didn't show the way that I kind of thought it would. She was a very successful TV writer and producer. He was an accountant in the war effort turned lawyer. So you're right. And they had no kids and they were together 8 years. That's very unusual for the time period. How old were they supposed to be in this film? You know, I can never tell how old people are in these older films. They're always so much younger than I think they are.
I would assume early 30s.
Wow. Yeah.
Because if they got married, let's say they got married and they were 22 or 23, then yeah, I would say early 30s.
Yeah. It was really... like any of these films, it's really hard for me to discern the age. I would say they look 40s, but that means they're probably 25. Yeah. But 30s makes sense. And yes, it was. Well, they all look older unusual.
She's always wearing a dress or a pantsuit. He's always wearing a suit.
It was just a more sort of dapper era. Yeah. People were dressing up to do things.
And they're in New York, where they were probably dressed.
Yeah, this was in New York City, and like date night was a true date night. Like for some men, it was black tie. Yeah. Which I mean,
or tux.
Yeah, like I've never even seen you in a suit, so it was very.
Hopefully, you never will.
Well, I know that's not your thing. And hey, like I said to you earlier, a nice button-down shirt, a good pair of jeans, and some cool sneakers. That is dressy for a man.
And now you know why I'm with Lindsay.
There you go, because I think that is dressy. But this was definitely of the era when everybody was pretty done up. And going out was very much getting dressed to go out. I mean, she had on like a lame pantsuit in like the last scene with like a sequined-esque like embroidered duster coat. It was very elaborate, might I say. But I love the look and the feel of this era. Their home is in Westport, Connecticut. I'm from around that area of Connecticut, so I loved the feeling of their house. I thought it was beautiful, and I just loved it. Like when seeing their little home was like, oh, you want to be in there. It was so charming.
It seemed like you liked the film, I think, more, not that you disliked the film, but you liked it more for the aesthetic of the time and the era than the actual probably movie.
Probably. I mean, this wasn't a bad film.
No.
It's just, the story being about their divorce and their discovery, I guess, in
Maybe
getting divorced. They weren't as
unhappy.
mismatched as they thought they were. And look, it's a good sentiment. I'm sure that happens to people. I think it's pretty rare. I think that most people
Especially
wouldn't
after 8
actually
years.
get the divorce. But then again, it really was a different era. And modern dating today is like such a different scene that maybe this did happen then. Though I will tell you, it was really surprising to even have a film where the core plot was divorce.
Yep.
I didn't even think they made films about this then.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually surprised this was about a couple getting divorced.
Yeah.
I can't believe they made a full film about that where this wasn't some shameful small moment. It was the entire plot.
How did you like You've never seen a Judy Holliday film, but she's great, especially
She was great.
In Born Yesterday, she's a great comedian and everything, but
She has good timing.
she has great timing.
I really like the way she speaks. It was, what was a little bit funny was Kim Novak played a
So I just
role
looked up
in
her.
here.
She would have been 21 at the time, so she pretty much paid her age.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. But yeah, she played kind of a ditzy role.
The
I mean, she
Marilyn
was like
Monroe.
the Marilyn Monroe of the time or whatever.
Or,
10 years
as I was
earlier.
saying while we were watching the movie, is it she's a ditz or she's just a young kid?
Maybe it's both.
Or like she's youngish where she never kind of
Yeah.
grew up? Yeah.
Maybe it's both. But I really thought Judy Holliday was really good. I liked her. I'd actually be interested in seeing more of
And she's in
her
another,
films after
she's in
this.
another film with Jack Lemmon called It Happened on, I think, Fifth Avenue or something like that. It's
Well, they have, I guess, a good...
Or It Should Happen to You. I think it's called It
I
Should
guess
Happen
you
to
could say they have a good chemistry
Yeah.
in that way. I liked her a lot. I really liked that her character was quite successful at that time.
Well, we found out she was making $40,000 a year, which is the equivalent of almost $500,000 now.
She had a pretty successful job
Yeah.
with NBC in the movie, and girl was lighting it up. She
Yeah.
was definitely taking care of business. She was paying for that beautiful Westport house, and
Yeah.
I understand, even in the divorce, it sounds like her mom was an interior designer in the city. She might have had some means that she came from, but she held her own and had a great career. And again, a lot of films from this time period don't have the woman being
That's true.
the
They're housewives, and that's
hardcore
it.
working woman in the city that's pretty much making bank.
Yeah.
So that aspect of the film is great. I do love films from this time period in the visuals. I love the sets. I love the clothes. I just kind of like that we dressed up and took pride in all the things, and these films really show that. I really enjoy those aspects of it. I mean, is it a flawed film if you're looking through today's lens? I mean, I know you hate.
No, but it's fluff. It's fluff.
It's fluff, but the scene that I struggle with, and really, honestly, the only scene, the one where this movie has one stain on it, is towards the end, where these two people, since their divorce, have been trying to figure out their life in the dating world and what that looks like, and that's not easy. And surprisingly, not a lot of shame brought to either one of them on it, which is interesting. But there is a scene at the end where the Judy Holliday character has somewhat of a gentleman caller that comes to her home. It is somebody that she knows, and I don't like where it's going. I'm not going to describe all the things, but I would definitely say that in a modern world where when we're looking at certain situations that are portrayed on film and seeing things in either misogynistic or predatory lights, got to be real and warn people before they watch that there really is a scene to that effect that made me uncomfortable. And I'm good with all these films. Like, I understand, like, put my hat on for the time period. I wasn't around in the 50s. But that one scene's not great. So I don't need to go into detail about it, but I will just tell people that there is a scene at the end. I don't love it. As a woman, makes me quite uncomfortable, and I don't feel good about it.
Okay.
So there is that.
Okay, so I'm just playing devil's advocate on this, and I don't want to give away because the ending is interesting.
Right. So I'm not saying anything about it.
So there's actually kind of almost the exact... It's not the opposite, but it's kind of turned around a bit. So Jack Lemmon's character is doing the exact same thing as the character that's going to see Judy Holliday. The difference is Judy Holliday, I think, is a little bit, ironically, less naive than the Kim Novak character. The Kim Novak character is kind of a ditz, but she kind of knows what she wants, too. And if you want to call her loose, that's fine. Judy Holliday is not. But the Jack Lemmon character was kind of doing the exact same thing as Jack Carson, but that didn't bother you.
Well,
because Kim Novak's a different character than Judy Holliday.
Well, no. So let me explain that, because I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I think that he was trying to have an intent of doing a similar thing, but in no way was he being forceful about it.
No.
That is the difference. That is the stark
He didn't chase her around the
difference.
house. Yes, I agree.
And say the things that the other guy who was at Judy Holliday's house was saying. He was actually engaging in what I would call truly scary, predatory, this is going to happen whether you like it or not behavior. Jack Lemmon never did that in this movie.
No.
Now, he may have put a move on Kim Novak, but Kim Novak didn't resist the move, and she had...
He had her over the house under the guise of having a party.
Yes.
And she didn't even seem too upset that, oh yeah, there's no party.
And because she said, well, your friend did that to me before. And ironically, that's the same friend that we see to going to Judy Holliday.
Yeah.
But that scene, and if somebody chooses to watch this film, they're going to know exactly what scene. It's the LeMay pantsuit scene. They're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And I also think they're going to be like, yeah, not fine. Not fine. That's the only stain on this film.
I'm not saying what the guy was doing was fine.
But it is different in my mind.
Okay. But their initial intent was exactly the same.
Yes, but I don't think Jack Lemmon did. He's definitely...
Totally agree. He cut it off at a certain point.
He's not the skeevy character that his friend is.
Well, we don't know because we don't want to give things away, but he got...
He got some news.
Well, actually, I mean...
He never got to realize the potential of what that was going to be.
Knowing his character, and most Jack Lemmon characters are like this, he's almost kind of like a sad sack. So knowing him, he probably would have chickened out.
He was kind
of
incapable.
Yeah, but...
And honestly, he was a single man.
Yeah.
So, and she was a single woman. There's nothing wrong.
No.
If sparks flew, there was really kind of nothing wrong with that.
No.
I'm just saying that the scene at the end...
No, I agree. It was rapey. It was like...
It's bad. It's not going to a good place.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing about this film that I have to tell in good conscience.
But they still did it with humor because it didn't end up the way you...
But you saw me starting to squirm in that.
Of course.
And even I said...
But I had seen the movie, so I'm like, this is...
But I said to you during it, I'm like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I would draw the line in a modern world and say... back that truck up because this scene is really bad.
Well, I think, okay.
And I can't assuage that with time period, yay. No, I mean, he was predatory,
so
period.
This is why, have you ever seen the movie 9 to 5?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why 9 to 5 was so good. They basically took what we're talking about and they spun it around.
Yeah.
So the Dabney Coleman character was basically going after the Dolly Parton character.
She taught him a lesson.
She did, but she tolerated it because she needed the job.
Yeah.
Up to a point. And then when they all realized they were all doing this, and then they got back at him and they turned it around. I don't know, in 1954 they were going to teach someone a lesson. Maybe they would have.
This wasn't an empowerment moment.
No.
This was she's lucky there was a problem with the carpet moment.
Right, but, well, again.
I'll leave you to go see it to understand what that means.
Actually turned out. I mean, that's the thing. You need to watch the movie. They didn't really explain what really happens.
Yeah, I mean, she's
fine. But.
She has a bit of a... Literally, her house has a problem with the actual physical carpet in it that saves her.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be the reason why that scene ended. It shouldn't be because somebody had a literal accident in her house.
Yeah.
that scene just shouldn't have been. I mean, like, it was not good. It was not okay.
We're not sure. Again, you need to see the film. I'm not sure anything would have happened with the way it was playing out, but yes.
I agree, but, like, it's the only thing about this film that I'm like, yeah, no.
That's fine.
And I can't, in good conscience, watch it and not warn someone that there is a part of this that I'm, like, not fine with.
Right.
Even though, in general, there's aspects of the film that are kind of cool because it was bucking a trend for that time period around divorce, around being single, around they weren't shaming the man or the woman for being divorced, which is great. She was very successful in her work. He was successful in his work. It's not like they were actually like a childless couple, meaning it was okay to be young and professional and married and or divorced. That's really not what I expected from the 50s. I would think that if there was a divorce, it would be shameful. And in particular, the woman would bear the scarlet letter of having done that. And actually, that doesn't happen. So let's be clear. There are.
So it's actually ahead of time.
Yes, I was about to say, there are elements of this film that actually make it ahead of its time. But when you want to get slapped back to reality, you go to that end scene I'm describing, and then you see like, oh yeah, this is the 50s. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, that still is in there. I would say if that scene was softer, or it didn't go as far as it did, if it stopped like a minute or two sooner, I'd be like, I wouldn't even call this a bad mark on the film.
But in some way, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I do agree with what you're saying. But as a movie, if it goes the way it normally would go, where, let's say, the male hero comes and saves the day, then it would have been like every other movie. It doesn't end up that way.
I guess the way I'm looking at it is I don't care if a male hero comes and saves the day or not.
Just as a film, you're looking at it in reality. I'm looking at it as a film.
I'm just saying, any way you slice that, that's a dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. And it's an example, clear as day, I'm not even going to say of a man, of a person not taking no for an answer and being really pursuant to a physical chase, a physical grab pursuit of someone who's saying, no, I don't care if a man to a woman, it doesn't even matter, gender or lack thereof in the situation, is wrong. So that's the only thing that really troubled me about the film. But there are a lot of high points about how the film handled the idea of coupledom not working out and people needing to move on from that. And they shouldn't be labeled for doing that. There's a lot of people in relationships that don't work, in marriages that don't work. In the 50s, I really felt like a lot of people would have hidden that or just not gotten divorced, just been miserable forever. So I'm really glad this film took a positive approach.
Maybe the reason they can get away with it, they didn't have any kids.
They didn't have any kids. So that I am not surprised.
Maybe they didn't have the scarlet letter because they didn't have any kids.
I am not surprised that they didn't have children.
Because when we watch all the other ones, when you have the blended couples, they're always widow or widowers.
Yes.
It's always yours, mine, and ours.
Films,
exactly.
Yeah.
She's always a widower. She's never divorced.
Yeah. The egg roll film.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
So this is a little different.
So I will give it that. I mean, got to give it its due.
No, and that's fine. What you brought up is fine. I mean, like, I'm not.
I just can't have someone out in your universe watch this and not hear me have said, "Hey, you know that part? I'm not okay with it," and I would understand why somebody else would totally not be okay with it. It's not okay.
So would this movie have knocked it out of the park if it wasn't for that one scene?
I don't know about knocked it out of the park, but it really would have been a true shocker with no excess baggage. I think the fact that that one scene exists is sort of a mark on the thing. Outside of that, though, I think it's got some really strong elements to it. I mean, I love movies from this time period, and I like that it was a progressive take on something that I honestly thought the world regarded as shameful even then. And this was, this was out when, like, my mom was a child, right? Like, so I consider that a different world. Mm-hmm. When the years my mom was growing up as a single digit, I'm surprised a film like this would have been out. So there is that aspect of it. And I think Judy Holliday's great.
Yeah.
She really is.
Oh, they had nice chemistry
Yeah.
with Jack Lemmon. And
She's
Jack
really
Lemmon's good in
exceptional.
everything he's in, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he just is a classic.
Yeah. All right, so you'd recommend it or not recommend it?
I guess I would recommend it. I'm just disturbed by one
fine.
scene. I wish that wasn't in there, or I wish there was just something that could be done to shore that up. It went too far. It went too far for it to feel comfortable.
Well, again, that's why it's good to watch old films, because you'd be like, well, people say, well, we haven't come that far at all. Well, maybe we have. So,
Yeah, I'm...
in some aspects.
I think a lot of other people wouldn't feel great about that either and would know that it wasn't right.
It's weird. Like, it didn't come out great.
It's predatory.
Yeah.
And I can't support something that's predatory. I try to imagine how would I feel in that situation, and the truth is scared shitless. That's how I feel.
You also probably wouldn't have invited that person to your home on a first date.
I would have been very scared.
Yeah.
I really that situation, if I was, true empathy, right? Put yourself in someone else's shoes. No, I wouldn't want to be in those shoes. I'd be very scared in those shoes. So I guess, as a woman looking at that, whoa, I'm not okay. I'm trying to take it, though, in the context of what it was otherwise. There are really progressive elements to it, so I don't want to, let that be the only thing we talk about. We mentioned ad nauseum, there are a lot of progressive moments in this, and it would be hard to not give credit where credit is due, because I really don't think you saw a lot of films like this at that time. All I kept thinking about when they were kind of showing their lives and what they were doing, dealing with divorce, was Leave It to Beaver and that perfect family with the perfect wife and the perfect kids and the perfect house and the dad with the perfect job. And I mean, that is more what I associate with the same time period this is happening. They're very much overlapping here.
But actually, Leave It to Beaver was about 5 years later.
Oh, was it? Wow, okay. I thought this might have been a contemporary.
No.
Trust Brian over me.
Television really didn't get going till about... I would say late 50s. Of course, I Love Lucy was there, but a lot of people didn't have televisions back then.
No, that's true. Well, the trust Brian over me. He knows his movie trivia and his television trivia. But that's interesting.
Well,
and in my mind, I was sort of equating these things.
The good thing that came out of this, you're going to go watch more Judy Holliday movies.
I really like Judy Holliday. She did have good timing, and she gave off this very intelligent but accomplished and also graceful air. This character of hers, she seemed even like what I picture the starlets to have been like, but really on her game. I love that. She is definitely bucking a trend for what I would have seen in some of these films in the past. There's no silliness. There's no airheadery with her.
Well, what's ironic is you haven't seen the movie, but Born Yesterday was what really kind of made her a star, and she is kind of an airhead. But she ends up learning history from her tutor because she's dating a gangster, and the gangster wants her to be kind of more educated, so she gets a tutor in William Holden and everything. So it's kind of funny you're saying that because you've never actually seen that movie, but yeah.
That is...
But it shows you what a great actress she was, and it's sad we were discussing this. She died at a very young age because she had breast cancer.
That's
she died at 43.
terrible.
So.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's younger than me. So that's just really heartbreaking to hear, knowing where you are in your own life, and then you hear that and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, she was in the prime of her career. So.
That's just the worst. I mean, that's really sad. And I like her a lot. She has a real charm to her. I mean, and there's other, actresses that sort of I feel that way about. Yeah. But not as many. And she was just terrific. I would like seeing her in the other films. I think we have to do some more Judy Holliday films.
Well, we'll get to it in the next 45 years. So there you go.
Brian has... Folks, if you don't really believe that Brian has the extensive collection that Brian has, trust me when I tell you, he's not exaggerating about the 45 years. In fact, I don't think we will get through every film in his collection, and it continues to grow on a monthly basis. And it kind of owns the house. It's very significant. It has a room. The collection has a room. As it should. Yeah. So he's not joking when he said that we'll be doing this for a long time.
I will tell you one thing. My DVD collection will not be going...
No, how could you end this better than that? I mean, absolutely no for your videos. They'll be there forever. No. Ooh.
If you enjoy this podcast and are an iTunes user, please do the show a favor and head on over to the official iTunes page for Damn Good Movie Memories. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. This will allow the show to appear higher in the algorithm and spread the joy of this podcast to the masses. If you are not an iTunes user, you can still listen and subscribe on Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook under our Damn Good Movie Memories page. You can also listen to a limited number of episodes on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for an all-new episode of Damn Good Movie Memories.